Welcome to the BOLO Podcast, where we bring you insightful discussions on all things related to Black business, leadership, and current affairs. Proudly brought to you in association with Camden Council, our aim is to shed light on matters concerning London, the UK, and their impact across the diaspora. Join us as we delve into the inspiring stories of the people on the ground, creating dreams and seizing opportunities, paving the way for a brighter future. We also engage with decision makers who play a vital role in shaping policies, ensuring a conducive environment for the growth and success of Black business. Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected, stay informed, and together, let's make a difference. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great intro. Yeah,
Really great
here
intro.
for it.
Yeah.
Well, my name is Alex Gapo. I am the co-founder of BOLO, aka Black Owned London, and I'm going to invite you to introduce yourselves. What do you do? And we'll dive in.
Shall I go? Okay.
Yeah, please.
You know what? I really liked what you said in your intro where you said people that make dreams come true. Someone said, because we both work in a label, someone said to me, oh, you know what the job that we do here is? We're making people's dreams come true. And I said, yeah, that's a nice way to look at it. But anyway, yes, my name is Amika, and I work at Universal Music Label as the head of specialist and community radio. So basically all things radio and quite simply the girl that gets the songs played on the radio. Woo!
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
But I specialize in hip hop and R&B music, mainly chasing a lot of rappers around London and making sure that they do things that they don't really want to do. That's what I do. But I also do radio and I DJ and do children's parties, and anything someone throws at me, I'll always give it a go.
Amazing.
Love that.
Lots to dive in on there. Lots to dive in on.
Gosh, I feel like I should have thought that. I'd be like, I have a job. Full stop. End of. No, that was really inspiring, Amika. Akara Etteh. I work at Universal also. I work in the catalog marketing label, which is UMR. I'm in the audience team. And just for context, catalog is anything that's over a couple of years old. And Universal being the company that is, and being an umbrella company for so many different labels, has amazing repertoire from EMI, from Island Records, from Polydor Records, and artists like Bob Marley, U2, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, but also more recent artists. So it could be an artist that's still releasing, like Bastille. So just the whole catalogue is there, and it's there to be just for people to rediscover it, to enjoy it again. We do a lot of stuff around maybe something that's 5 or 10 years old. It's a moment to remember that. So I work in the audience team, which is about allowing people to grow their audiences. So again, an older artist like the Beatles, perhaps you wouldn't expect to be active on TikTok, on socials, and we are trying to find ways to bring their music to life again for the next generation and current generation. So that's part of what I do in life. I also teach part-time at Westminster, help out on the business course and the music performance course there. And I'm also a landlord, got to invest in property. There's probably loads of other things I do as well. But I love music. I've always been involved in music from a creator standpoint, as well as now more on the business side. So yeah, that's me.
And you make people's dreams come true on a daily basis.
That is correct. I need to remember that every day when I wake up.
In the business of making dreams come true.
Dream weavers, you. Amazing. I think one of the most important aspects that we want to dive into with this podcast is journeys, pathways. I think definitely something that we see in these times is always the glossy finish, always the end product. And so it's really enlightening to understand people's ups, downs, journeys, highlights, lowlights, and just that general course that you've taken. So it'd be really interesting. So how did you end up here, where you are now?
Right here, this great podcast. Well, my story began actually before I was officially in music because my mum, she works as a music manager in events promotions. So before I did my job, I was already doing my job, if you know what I mean, which I just call it child labor, really. As soon as I could stand, walk and talk, then I was out to the masses of looking after any artist my mum needed help with. So, but my official Universal Music story began, but actually it all began at an after party in Amsterdam. Well, all good things always happen, obviously. And I was there just chatting away. I just finished uni. We were celebrating. Life was good. But I always knew that I wanted to get into music and do radio and DJ and all the rest of it. And I was at an after party and I was chatting away, and a DJ you might know, Kenny Allstar, who has a show on One Extra, he was also at this after party. Okay. I was there chatting away, chat. And just telling him that I really wanted to get into the business. And he was obviously very lovely, and he was at Represent Radio at the time. And he said, when we get back to London, come to the station. I'll teach you how to drive the desk. And, it was basically an intro to the scene. Yeah. I said, oh my gosh, yes, thank you. Got back to London. Obviously people do say things when they're drunk, and I don't know how much they mean it. But then I badgered Kenny, please, Kenny, let me go. And then, of course, in the end, he was like, of course, come through. And then he was teaching me how to do the radio live. And then when I was in the waiting room for Kenny one day, my ex-boss, who is a radio plugger for an independent radio plugging company, he was also in the waiting room. We got chatting again. I said, I really want to get into music. This is what I do, And then he said, well, why don't you come work for me? And I said, oh, okay. And that's how my life as a radio plugger began. And I did 3 years there. And then Polydor popped up and said, hey, you come over and work for me. And now I'm at Polydor, and now recently the head of radio promotion. So yeah.
Congratulations.
But this is why my advice to everyone always is, make sure you tell everyone your dream. Because if I hadn't have said it to Kenny, if I hadn't have spoken to that guy in the waiting room and told him, what I want to do, how's anyone meant to know? So you never know who you're speaking to, who might just give you that helping hand to where you need to be.
That's incredible. Love it. Absolutely love it. Akara.
My journey, I feel like I'm still halfway through it. As I said, I really, really love music. And I grew up in a family which is very academic, very much you need to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, something like that. And so I went to university doing a degree which was very much, it was computer science, it was engineering, and probably didn't attend that many lectures. I probably spent all my time trying to learn to DJ. So I taught myself to DJ, throwing parties with friends. We started an Afro-Caribbean society. We started a hip hop DJ society because there was nothing like that at uni. And essentially by the time I graduated, I wasn't a very good computer scientist, but I was a full-time DJ. So was living that life up in Yorkshire. And then one of my best friends was like, hey, if you're going to do music, London's the place to be. And I was like, okay, it is. Trust my best friends. Got the credit card out and just put a deposit down on a house, to rent, and didn't have a job lined up and just moved. Didn't have any work, nothing.
Wow.
And then just from there was the hustle, trying to learn what the scene was like in London, trying to DJ in the West End, trying to promote nights. And at some point I realized that a lot of the top DJs are producers also and make music. So I was like, I need to learn how to produce. And also, as much as people, glamorize the life of being a DJ, staying up till 6 a.m. every single night is a little bit, it's antisocial.
Some
it sounds
sustainability issues there.
It's sustainability issues, exactly that. And all my friends and family aren't going to bed at 6 a.m. They're getting up at 6 a.m. So I was like, something has to change. So eventually transitioned into writing more music, producing more music, working with yourself, Alex. We were in a band together at times, and we would, go to the studio and write and record with the friend who said I should move to London. I ended up starting a label with him and doing some stuff there. And I guess over the years, all that experience of performing, being on tour, we did a little European tour, had stuff on radio, kind of taught me a lot about music and how it works. Lockdown hit, everything kind of slowed down, and I was like, what's next? And there was an opportunity to work at Westminster, so started doing that, just teaching some of what I knew part-time online, because everything was offline. There was nothing in person at that point. And then, that kind of took what I'd been doing informally and made it formal. So I'd been informally coaching and helping people that I just really wanted to. And then it became formalized by teaching at Westminster. And then at some point I was like, what else can I do? I applied for an internship, talked to them about everything that I'd done. They were like, you sound great. Come and work for us. So this was AWOL, which is now part of Sony. So did a year and a bit with them, ended up being a temp there for a couple of months. And then as, I wanted a role, but it had to be the right role. And that wasn't there at AWOL. So they were like, let's introduce you to our friends who work over at Universal. I was like, absolutely, please do. Went in for a chat. The role that I thought I would take, which was in line with what I was interning in, that wasn't available. But they were like, we like you. Why don't you stay? Be a temp for a bit. So yeah, carried on being a temp for a few weeks part-time. That turned into, hey, why don't you help us set up this project, which is going to be working with Island Records and Polydor Records and EMI Records. I was like, all right, cool. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to help set up this project. Then it was the project set up. Why don't you come and do one of those roles? Don't know what I'm doing, but okay, let me do one of those roles. Did that for a few months, and then eventually, essentially the job that I originally went to Universal for opened up, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do that?" And that's where I am now.
Wow.
So yeah,
Good story.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Both of you have incredible stories, in fact, and literally just been writing, scribbling notes, and there's three things that kind of stood out with both of you, and I'd love to explore that a little bit more from if it was something pointed or if it was something that just naturally occurred. But things like mentors, networking, and the learning of new skills. So I guess like pick any of those, like learning of new skills. I think, you were introduced to how to run the decks and you continually looked to upskill. Has that been like a focused thing, or has it just been a coincidence that you've literally just found joy in learning something and just gone for it? What's it been for you guys?
Well, mine was definitely a coincidence. I mean, shouting out Kenny All-Star each and every time because he literally just introduced me to a whole new world. And if it wasn't for him, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And so when you say like a mentor, like you really do need, or it does help to have someone just, give a helping hand. And once you give a helping hand to everyone, it just can change someone's life in such dramatic ways. Even if it's just a small thing, like I just thought it was just a really nice thing for him to do. So, yeah, I think I knew I wanted to get into music. I had no idea I'd ever be a radio plugger because I don't know if anyone writes out what I want to be when I'm older. When they're 8 years old, I want to be a radio plugger. But this is just where it ended up. And it just so happened that the pieces of my life brought me to this, but total coincidence, but I love it.
Amazing.
yeah. I didn't even know what a radio plugger was at age 8
Or
18.
Or 18. I didn't know what a radio plugger was until I actually got the job. I was like, oh, this is what we do. Like, I just thought DJs wake up and just, choose what they want to do, which they do, obviously. But there is someone, like speaking with the producers behind radio and sending music to DJ download sites to get the music to the people to play. So there is someone in the back being really pushy, annoying, and shovey, and I'm that girl.
Okay.
Love that. Kind of off topic, but this whole realization that things are perhaps not quite what they seem has been a really interesting journey for me.
Right.
And maybe then that ties into the skills thing, because I think I grew up in a very religious Nigerian household, and Christian Nigerian gospel music was all I heard. And then when I discovered, Trevor Nelson or other DJs on radio, and were like, oh, wow, amazing songs. Oh my God, this DJ is so switched on that they know all this amazing music. And like you were saying, I just thought that's how it just happened magically.
Right.
But actually, there are so many steps and teams involved in making sure that the music that someone cooks up in their bedroom or in a studio actually ends up on radio, ends up on Spotify.
Yeah.
And so in a way, I have been on that journey of how does this all work? Like it's a bit of a sweet shop for me. I'm like, okay, so there's marketing, there's radio, there's PR, there's press, there's audience or digital marketing, and all these parts, how do they all work?
Right.
So I wouldn't say I'm an expert at any of them, but I really enjoy knowing at least the bare bones and the basics of as much as I can. So I do have that kind of thirst for knowledge of, oh, teach me about this, from how do the microphones work? How does the studio work?
Right.
Down to the business side. So I found that really, really interesting. Possibly to my own detriment, because I probably haven't stuck at one thing for long enough to really be like, that's my thing.
Right.
But I've really enjoyed the breadth and really understanding how things fit together. I feel like I'm playing catch up the whole time, but I love it.
But I think because we do work in a label, you literally see that it is a machine. Like, as you said, all the different parts. If you walk around the office, there's streaming, there's radio, there's press, there's A&R, there's marketing, there's the digital team, there's creative team. And once a song drops, the song will go all around the room to everyone's separate stations, and they do their bit in making it pop. And once everyone's section is popping, that's how you have a hit.
Yep.
So it's a very interesting way to see the back end of how a song blows up.
And this podcast obviously this episode will definitely resonate with up and coming artists, and I'd be remiss to not take the opportunity to ask a few insights on potential tips, tricks, and whatnot to help. And I think one of the questions that I've come with is, in your experience, what are the key elements that contribute to successfully developing an artist's career pathway in the music industry? Just one or two things that you're like, oh yeah, this is a really essential thing that sometimes people miss. That can be done at entry level, possibly, maybe.
Because I feel like, again, I'm still learning. I'm going to go with some general things, and hopefully you're going to refine them into actual real life stuff, so that I don't.
We could team up.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, the couple of things that jump out are a real dedication to whatever it is that you do. So if you feel that you're a great songwriter, really dedicating yourself to being a great songwriter.
Yeah.
Or if you feel like you're a great performer, really dedicate yourself to being the best performer that you can be.
Yeah.
So really being like, this is my talent, opposite of what I was saying, really honing in on it and going all in, and maybe like finding team members who can help complement the other things that maybe you're not so good at.
Right.
I think that's really, really important. Yeah, actually, yeah. Find your talent, find your team. That's kind of how I would see it. But
I was going to say team as well. Your team is so important. Like, being a one-man band, yes, you'll have the talent, but you need that person around you to like help push you, and also push you to get the exposure that you need. If you're sick, you've got to be busy creating and doing the sick things that you need to do. You need a manager or someone who knows the business side of it, maybe, if you're busy creating, to actually help get you to the places where you're actually seen for your talents. Because sometimes if it's just you and all you're doing is making music, you're so focused on that you're not actually getting it out to the people. So maybe you need a team, like a manager, or even like a social media person that can market you in the right way. So yeah, team's important.
good team. We like that. We like that. And actually on that as well, I think having been an artist and been on that side of things, and sometimes dabbling, there is that instinct sometimes to hold it to yourself. Oh, I don't want to let someone in, or why should I give 20% away or 50% away to this person or that company? But as you say, without them, it might just stay in your bedroom and nothing happens. So just be open to at least finding the right person, because you can't just work with everybody, but find the right person that fits with you. We're not saying go out and find a shark of a manager who's going to screw you over and take your life away. No, find the right person that you trust and that can actually help you and is in it for the right reasons. And the two of you, and then the three of you, and the four of you, etc., will go on to build something amazing.
Totally.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in that light, I suppose,
we have a team member.
Yay! Welcome.
Hi guys.
Hey.
I've been here all along. I don't know what you mean.
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Hey, what's up?
How you guys doing?
Yeah, very well.
Loving it. Loving every bit of it. Sorry.
you can intro yourself. So no, in that light, in terms of, I suppose, an acknowledgement of the value of collaboration across the board. Do you have any examples of interesting ways that people have collaborated, whether it be musicians collaborating together, or some sort of the way that a team has had created their own composition in terms of sharing the credits and things like that are quite important within the scope of developing a team or a band or an individual artist?
I mean, I know it sounds like a funny way of doing it, but people like when you see Dua Lipa
Right.
and even Ray as well, like, and there's also Mabel, the team that they have a lot of the time is their family. And I know this is like really nice, but you can totally tell when an artist is so humble and doesn't think that they're like at the top of whatever, even if they are at the top. But having a family that's also part of your business and kind of, it really does keep you grounded. That's why the Kardashians are so great as well, because they have a family around them. So once you have that team that you actually trust, which you said, that is the best collaboration, I think, because it actually really helps you trust the people around you and keep you kind of level-headed.
Could you say maybe a sentence or two on maybe the difference you've seen? You know, you don't have to name names, but it'd be just be interesting to me personally.
It's just when you're kind of an artist, maybe their management isn't so great. The way that they might not be so committed to things and thinking that they don't have to do this, or maybe not treating people as people, and the people that are working around you maybe just not really giving them the time of day, or maybe the things they should be giving the time of day. I don't know, but I think because you're swept up in your success and hype, you actually forget that there's people around. But when it comes to families that are also involved, it just brings a whole new wave of just like, we're all in the same level. And yeah, I can just see quite a difference.
Nice.
But I will not name any names, of course.
Thank you for protecting modesty of everyone involved. And actually, you said off camera that previously that your mum helps you out sometimes, and maybe you've seen a little bit of that for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, yeah, she works in the reggae music world, and is also a manager. So a lot of our things overlap. So that's helpful for me.
Love that. Love that.
And very nice.
Incredible.
For me, team has been just the most enjoyable experiences. So we've done nights, 2-3 of us, and with other people who, amazing people that I still hold very fondly today, where on our own it would have been nothing, but I remember putting on a night or two where it was just musicians that I've worked with, and it was a song that I'd written with this person, produced with that person, someone that my mate Dave, who's an amazing musician, who's on the keys on certain tracks, another mate Manny, who's amazing with bass on certain tracks, and just people like that just all coming together and it just being a team effort. So whilst I was doing a lot of the heavy lifting, they were also doing the heavy lifting, and it just meant we could do like 2 hours of music. I don't think much of it was released, but it was just a vibe, and everyone really enjoyed it. And even to this day, like I was out for dinner with a mate last night, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, those nights were some of the best nights I've ever been to." And that was just the team. Just, it wasn't a big company. It was just a load of friends getting together and doing what we loved, and just really, really special memories.
Oh, I have another one now.
Go.
All right, go on.
To help, if you are an up-and-coming singer, that is a great collaborative thing that you should do. If you're an artist, it's always very good to have yourself your producer. And if you're a singer and you have a producer, and say you work together and you know each other so well, like you see it with Ice Spice and her producer is Riot. So every time she does a song, she's stop playing with them, Riot, and that's the intro. And that's because she has a synergy with her producer that he knows what she likes, she knows what he does, and they work so well. So all her songs have been hits. Same with J Hus and J5. They came up together. Like, if you're an artist, find your producer and just go ham with them, because then you can actually come up together and put out your project. Same with Suspect and Flyo. They did Flyo as producer. He had a sick project, and it was all Flyo who did the production. So once you have that synergy with your producer as well, you can make some bangers and come up together, which will be nice.
That's amazing. That's really poignant, because I think there's probably, off the top of everyone's head, we could probably come together and think about 50, 60, 100 artists who've done the same thing. And once they become established, it's a very different matter. Do you know what I mean? And as an artist, you find your flow, and the producer you start to work with can work with you, and you get given beats or given stuff. But what you talk about there, the synergy, is so important, because I think a lot of people think, oh, let me grab somebody, and this person's about actually most projects for most up and coming guys who've then become amazing later on. It was one producer. If it was 10 songs, it was at least 8 of them were one producer. And yeah, that's a really interesting point. That's really, really true, because that resonates with me highly, because all the artists that I've ever loved, you always know their first couple of projects, it was one producer. Which might seem like a weird thing, but it's like you said, it's like finding your team. It's finding, it all makes sense to you. Do you know what I mean? You know, we've made music in the past before, and it's funny, you know, when someone says something to you or cues you, if someone gets it, it works. If someone doesn't get it, there's no point in me saying, yeah, like this, and the person's like, I don't get it. And then and you're both just looking at each other like, take 70. Like, I don't even like music anymore. That's how it starts to feel. That's how it starts to feel. Whereas if someone kind of goes, you know, and they're like, oh, I see what you mean. Like, even though everyone else is like, that made no sense, but you have that understanding. So I think that's a vibe. No, for real, I think that's a really cool vibe. I don't know if you guys have talked much about the business side of things, and how important that can be. Because I think for me, I guess it's difficult when you talk about music as an art form, to talk about business, because it sort of seems immediately, if you start talking about business, you're a sellout, or you just care about the money, which I'm sure some people do. But I think advisory wise, it's important to understand how important the business side of it is and what you're trying to achieve. Do you know what I mean? To make yourself sustainable, if that makes sense. So I don't know if you guys have any views on that, in the sense that what advice you'd give people, how they would do things from a business perspective, to make it saying what they should expect, what they shouldn't expect, because as we talked about in other podcast episodes, the expectation changes because of socials. You know, you see someone up and you're thinking, I swear they only came out last week, but you weren't there for the open mic nights. You weren't there. You weren't there for all.
You didn't see the struggle, man.
You wasn't shooting with me in the gym. All that. You weren't doing all that. So, you know, in the sense that you weren't there for when you had like nobody in the crowd and the rest of it. So just assume it's that way. But I think there's lots to be said about that expectation and the business side of the expectation as well. So is that, you know, when people think about, you know, someone sees things happening, they think people are getting lots of money, and not understanding what that means as well, and how to have your ducks in a row for those types of things to give you a chance to succeed on a bigger level. So if you guys got any insights into that,
So many insights.
I know you do 100%. We've had some conversations in the past, and this man is like, listen, that's not possible, that's not feasible, stop wasting your time with that. And it's funny because obviously for me, you're a very artistic person anyway, but you're also very much a realist. So
yeah, and I think that really helps. It doesn't always work. Like, I definitely chatted to artists and musicians now who are immediately suspicious, because they're like, oh, you work for a major label. And it for me, that's a little bit sad, because I come at it as a passion, right? I come at it as someone who loves music and loves musicians and loves people. And it makes me sad if that doesn't come across. But I also understand, having been on that side, where if someone approaches you, you're just like, what? No. You're not taking my stuff. You're not trying to screw me over, and just being no. Whereas if it was another musician, I'd just have been, oh yeah, come, let's go collab, let's vibe. Potentially wasting time and making no money, but I was much more open to it.
Vibes.
Yeah, I think ultimately you have to go with people who you trust. Family really helps, as you were saying, Amika. If someone's been personally introduced to you through family or friends, that is really, really important. Because then it can be, okay, I respect them for what they can help me with in the business, but also I know they are not a shark. I know they actually care about me as a person. I think that's really, really important. I saw a post the other day on Insta. It was about someone who was talking about being signed. You know, must have been quite young, was in a band. There were 4 people in the band and a manager. They got, I think it was from Sony, they got 100 grand plus 50 grand tour support, which again, if you've never been signed, you see a £150,000 deal, you're like, oh, that's amazing. But then he said that was meant to last 3 or 4 years. And if you split that 5 ways, all of a sudden, what, £7,000-10,000 a year per person to do something full time?
Yeah, it's not looking good.
But it is really interesting that you do need to understand these things. But also to get to that point, I'm sure they worked really, really hard, and they did a lot of stuff in the dark that no one really saw. I saw another clip on Instagram about someone who, the comments were like, do you not have a new song? Because apparently this person had created this song was doing it like, on Instagram Live 3 years ago when they had 50,000 followers or 20,000 followers. Now they have, I don't know, 3 million followers.
Right.
They've been signed to Sony. They've got this huge 3D CGI music video with like Wakanda in the background and all kinds of stuff. It looked amazing. But the post was literally just to say, look, if you've been with me this time, you've seen the journey, and I have more to bring.
Right.
But yeah, it was really interesting that, it can be that one song that gets developed, remixed. More people come on board, help you with your choreography, with your styling, with your makeup, with production, with even helping tweak the songwriting to eventually it becomes a hit.
Right.
Listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If that's the song that people like, roll with it. Like, I'm currently working on an artist, Byron Messiah, who has a song called Talibans. And we've been working this song for months and months and months. And recently, Burna Boy just jumped on the remix. So this is like popped off across this whole summer. Like every DJ set, like this song goes off. Everyone loves it. But this is what the people love. So if they love, let's give them more love. Add some more spice into it. So now Burna Boy's jumped on the remix and it's
blown.
It's now blown. So I think that there is something with, if the people like the track, then it just can keep rolling. I remember with Mabel Finders Keepers, we like that song, great song, but that was worked for literally like a year, like it before it even went to daytime radio. It was like, it kept. You have to keep going, and more people, and the more you push, the more people hear, the more people like. It keeps growing and growing, and then So
what does that look like? That worked. You said it was worked. What does that mean? What does that entail?
That entails a lot of conversations with a lot of people. Like, as I said, the label is a machine, and everyone's doing their little part to play to making this song grow. So in my being a radio plugger, I'm being the pushy, annoying, shabby girl that I am, and going into the stations each week and saying, this song is amazing. It's got this many streams, this many views. It's being played in the club. So I'm basically like selling a song. So, but say if I'm working on something and it's usually like a 6 to 8 week campaign, I'm continuously talking to these producers and radio heads and DJs and saying, this is the song, this is the song, this is the song. And it goes on for how X many weeks or a year even of just like, going in on a song and getting it to where it needs to be. So when I say worked, and that's just my area. So press people will be doing the same. Streaming pluggers will be doing the same. Everyone's going to their people and making sure that it is added to the playlist that it needs to be added. It's being spun. It's in the right publications. It's So when you're working a single in a 6 to 8 week campaign, that's what everyone's doing.
So that speaks to a lot of strategy in terms of the initial point of making the song, and you what are you defining in that strategy? Like what
targets?
Yeah.
You'll know completely about this, but often it will be.
But this is for someone who's signed, I'm presuming.
Yeah, but you can also do it as an independent artist, and I think it's really important. You're speaking to what you were saying, that you start doing this as an independent artist.
Exactly. Right.
So that the expectation is that that's going to carry on when you're signed.
Yeah,
You don't want this situation where you've never done it before you were signed, and all of a sudden people are like, we need to take half your budget and spend on this, and you're like, what for? Yeah. You need to understand this is part of the process of how songs get out there. And I think some people listening to this who maybe are musicians will be so surprised. Oh, you work one song for a year? But it's really important to understand that this is the work that goes into it. But there'll be targets, and we talked about streaming. So the streaming team might say, we want to get it, on New Music Friday, but we also want it to get it onto a pop hits playlist, or we want to get it into this generation type of playlist on a streaming service. Or we want to be interviewed by someone on a major, like Apple Music have their radio shows. We want to be we want that interview with Zane Lowe, which he will only do a set number during a time period. It won't be he's doing 5,000 interviews in a week. It might only be one for that week. So those are the kind of targets that will be set. And then also in telling the story, there'll be a process of, cool, we said we would get to X number of streams per week. Now we've got there, let's go back to radio. Let's go back to the streaming guys and be like, look, you really need to pay attention to this song because it's now moved up.
Right.
And you can probably do similar as independent artists. Maybe you don't get all the big playlists, but once you go on a playlist, maybe you go back to your contacts at your blog or your magazine and say, just to let you know, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Can we get a little bit more love on the track? And I think some of this stuff is really surprising. You've never heard it before, but it is really important to kind of bear it in mind that a song can be so much more than just, oh, I posted it and it's done. 2 weeks, we move on.
Yeah.
You know?
The more you're like telling people how amazing this song is and giving them all the stats, like me and the streaming team, I'm in such communication every day and they're constantly updating me. So I'm going to my radio people, letting them know how many streams it's got that day. Now we're here, now we're there. Like, it's true. And maybe radio might be doing well and streaming's not, it might be the other way around. So everyone uses the information from another part of the machine to help your part go up. So yeah.
I mean, that's interesting. I like that in terms of the idea for independent artists to understand the structure that they may well be in at one point. And then if you set yourself up for it, then it's like you said, it's a much easier transition. You know, if you know what people are trying to do anyway, and you're like, okay, this is me. And not that you're trying to sell yourself to the label, because I don't want to upset any artists in that sense, but it's more just that this is it. The transition is smooth. It's like anything. Do you know what I mean? Rather than, you know, butting heads against everything that now comes your way. And like you said, less surprises, and it's just, and then you get to keep your team knows what they're doing, and then actually that's even better for you further down the line.
Totally. You can have, like, as an independent artist, you can hire an independent radio plugger, a streaming plugger, a distributor.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
you can, there are people out there that if you want, but all you need to concentrate on, I guess maybe before going to these people, A, having amazing music to show them so they actually want to help you, but also B, just making your own wave. Like, we live in a society right now where everything is on camera. It's all about visuals. So if you are good and you can sing and you have songs, you literally just post them. And you just keep posting them. And your wave will start, because if you're actually good and you're putting out good music, people will listen. So as long as you're just, even if you don't have the money for, you know, a radio plugger or whatever it is, like, just concentrate on your own wave, because once you're creating your own wave, those people will come to you anyway.
And in that light, actually, I'd like to ask how I mean, this is an obvious question, but in the context of it, socials. How are they regarded? What's, you know, I'm guessing they're the main frame of how people.
Can I narrow that?
Yeah, please.
Rather than just like how, because we know that social. But I think it's interesting because you obviously have this. I would like to know how you guys deal with this new age of basically reels and the rest of it, where you get 10 seconds of a song and everyone loves that 10 seconds of the song. Do you know what I mean? And suddenly that song gets millions of hits because no one actually even knows what's going on, but they just like that 10 seconds.
And then you go to the gig and then it's really silent. And then the 10-second comes up.
So it's like, in terms of, so obviously that's affecting especially the new generation of listeners and people. I guess the question is almost like, how do you guys deal with a lot of that? How is that? Is that something that you then try to work into the strategy of the artist that you're working with? Or is it something that you guys are like, we're trying to combat this in some sort of other way? Well, how's that dealt with?
I think it is back to how you start the campaign, which is targets. What are your targets? For some artists, their target is, I need to get to X number of followers for the campaign. That's a target, as opposed to, I want 10,000 people at a stadium. So for some artists, it is, I need X number of followers. For some artists, it is, I need to have a song on the A-list at this radio station. And it all differs. But if your target is that you want to be on radio, then you're perhaps not measuring it by socials. Socials might help tell the story to radio, but your target is radio, so you focus on that. But if your target is, I feel I need to be at X level on socials, then yes, we will be looking at that all day because that's the target. And I think it is really important for artists, going back to where I started, like, figure out what you're really good at, and then use that as your thing that you go for, because certain people are just not good on socials.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's so like, how annoying in this world where everyone's talking about socials. What if you're just like not naturally good at it? And some people, like, when you see these influencers and like, they're literally posting like 2 or 3 times a day and they're so natural with it. I think, gosh, like, some people just got it like that. Like, and then some people don't, but yet they're still amazing artists. So then what do you do then? So that's why I guess it does help to, if, as you said, if you're a good artist, but you're not good at socials, focus on making your music amazing. And then I guess you can maybe get someone to help you with your socials and sort that part out for you, because I will say that you do need it to be out there. But if you're not the type of person that is like just talking to camera so freely, you're just, I guess, just set up your camera and just whatever you're playing or singing, it's just natural pickup. And then that's what you post if you want. Find someone to help you with socials. But it is an interesting one because not everyone's good at socials. Like, and it's so hard because we live in a world full of social media. So,
Yeah, we all
Go.
we all spend hours on our phones, right? It's recognizing, instead of it being, oh, I have to do socials, it's no, like you as an artist, you spend hours on social media. So how do you think that your fans spend their time? They spend their time on social media as well. So please make something, whether it's yourself or with a team, as you were saying, Amika, like with a team, or maybe you end up collaborating with a certain platform, whether it's Colors or, you know, whatever the other platform is out there. So you might not be great at socials, but this platform is great at visuals and socials. And then you have the content that then is your shop front, and then people start to come to you. And there are people in the labels whose job it is to be on socials all day and see what's popping.
oh my gosh, we have a girl at my label. She's literally the TikTok girl. That's her name, the TikTok girl. And she is the TikTok girl. She started when she was literally like 16, 17. She started as an intern, and now she's literally like the head of TikTok girl.
That's amazing.
She is amazing, but it has to be, I guess, because it is for the younger new generation. The person who is the head of that does also have to be young herself, because she knows it.
She understands
She understands it.
Her people, so to
Her
speak.
people, yeah. So obviously TikTok is for all ages, but you know what I mean. It's just interesting how she's got that job and she's absolutely sick at it. So yeah, it is.
No,
It is a thing.
It's really interesting. That's really interesting, because I think that's, for me, it's always interesting to know how you guys would navigate such a thing, because obviously what's interesting about what you've both said is effectively what you're telling me. It's, well, I'm not necessarily completely artist led, but effectively you're not going to push an artist to do something they're not good at. And so that's an interest. So when you see, if I see some campaigns now where someone has decided to try and make a dance or a particular situation with on a social media post with their song, you know what I mean? Then I understand that that's what the artist would have probably wanted and gone for, and it's like looking for that. Does that make sense? As opposed to someone came up with the idea and was like, we need you to do this. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? And then for the artists that you never see on social media, so to speak,
It's suddenly doing a dance routine.
exactly.
You're like, oh, where did this come from?
Exactly. So that's it's interesting hearing you guys how you guys are playing. It's interesting that there's obviously so many lanes, but you're like, let's try and utilize as many of these lanes in the way that you're comfortable and good at.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? So,
yeah, every artist is different. If someone's very good at chatting, then you know that's your lane of doing it. But if you're not like that, you just have to find what works for you and hone in on that, and that can be your social media exercise.
And that's why, you know, if you're great at chatting, you might end up on loads of podcasts like this. Because that's where you can come into your own, and then you can clip out little bits and post on the socials. You know, some artists really like football, so you see them on the charity football matches. Do you know what I mean? It's
or gamers, then they link with the gaming world. It's just you just got to get into the mind of what you're about, and then see what you can link yourself to.
So finding your niche in that sense. So it's really interesting, because like one of the things you mentioned that literally just got my interest peaking is actually how and why you choose particular lanes. So you're talking about, okay, this person will have a target with radio, and this person will have a target with streaming. What usually differentiates that? Like, what's the thing that drives one to the other? Is it strictly strategic, or is it based on the artist? Like,
in my experience, it's a combo of maybe a suggestion from someone at the label who is very experienced, who does work with lots of artists and has worked with lots of artists, and maybe has worked with this artist previously, and goes, based on my experience, I think this is where we need to target for this next project.
Okay.
They'll suggest that to the artist via management, and then the artist management will come back with their opinion. Maybe it's a yes, we agree, or actually no, we don't want to do that. And in that case, they don't end up doing it, and they go in a different direction. That's been my experience. I don't know whether you've.
For me, I'd say it actually depends on the song. Okay. Like a song can be a radio record, or really, really not. So say like a song is like a big like dance anthem track, or maybe it's a heavy one, you know, like obviously you'll have specialist DJs that will play that, but maybe that's a streaming record that you want to actually make it pop in the streaming world, and once it's really pop there, that's when radio, whoever else, sorry I keep referring to radio, but obviously that's just my world. So then people will take that and be like, okay, this is popping in that area, let me take it to this area. So but then also sometimes, you know, there is really great daytime, easy listening, happy, floaty records that work great for radio. So people say, okay, let's focus on radio for now, and then the rest we'll see how good that's doing, and then hop on board.
I think that's totally interesting, right? So and it makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna swing it slightly a different way.
Swing it, let's go, honey.
I don't know if you've addressed this, but I was like, sure. But, then mainly can start with you. I'm gonna talk about representation because that's what we're talking about here. But from a female perspective, and in the sense of something that interests me. So, and even in your opinion, do you find that before everything, obviously, your experience working in the music industry in terms of how male dominated it is or how female led it can be, and your experience in that sense, but also in terms of who works with who, do you feel like it's better synergy if female artists are working with a female team? Do you think that matters? Does it happen a lot? Is it considered? How you feel about it yourself? So I think there's that as well. So both the side of representation within the industry and not for just obviously things as simple as artistry, like as in everything down to whatever job you might do. Do you know what I mean? All the way down to everything as an intern, all the way up to TikTok girl.
Shout out TikTok girl.
But you know what I mean? In that sense that is there? Do you think there's good representation? Is it something that's actually pushed and led and put and tried to people try to deliver on? And as well, do you think, like I said, does it increase synergy? Or does it matter?
It definitely increases synergy because girls always support girls and we're always here for the love between us. So but I've definitely been in rooms where, like big meeting rooms where I'm the only girl. And it's interesting to see how, as years have gone on, I've been in the industry now since I finished uni. So like, you know.
What, last year?
3 years.
3 years.
Last
3
year.
years. But how things have actually changed, and there is so many amazing, incredible female bosses that work in the industry now, and there's more and more and more and more and more that are there, like setting the tone. And also, like, there's a lot of like women supporting women meetings and societies, and like, so, and they have a lot in Universal where a lot of women come together, and you know, everyone's just empowering each other and talking about their stories and helping each other. So yeah, it's definitely, and also for teams, I guess, like which artist? I think there was an artist that was in our label. She had an all-girl team, and they were, I guess, it kind of did look like they kind of understood each other a lot more, but also they were having like so much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
It looked lit. I was like, I want to be in that crew. Like, but there is like, the girls that are in this industry are absolutely bosses, and they're working the way up and up and up and up more and more and more. So I'd say in my label now is very even at this moment in time. So we have lots of heads of departments that are women led. So, and they're doing amazing things. So I guess it all depends, but I think it is nice when girls do come together. But I think we're really getting there.
How do you feel about that? I mean, I know you're not that you're a woman, but it's interesting. I always think, even though you're not a woman, it's still interesting to get your perspective, like how you've seen it, whether you think the same and the rest of it, because that's important. So everyone actually to have the same mindset, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And have the discussions. Otherwise, it's just one person, one side saying one thing, another side looking at it. So
Completely agreed. And I think if I was in a company where it was all men, I would kind of start feeling uncomfortable, because I'd be like, what's wrong here?
Yeah, something's not adding up.
This isn't important. Or you're not. I mean, approximately 50% of the population are women. So why wouldn't you have approximately 50% of your board and your team being women? So yeah, I'm completely for it. Like, I mean, I don't attend the women's group meetings at Universal, but I'm completely supportive.
Oh, you missed that last one. Oh, shame.
Yeah, I did miss it.
I'll get you a little wig.
I'll get you in.
But when they have their open events, I'm like 100% there, and I try, you know, I'll block it off in my diary, because I think it is really important. And I think, as someone who's black and understanding representation from that perspective, I'm like, I can't be about it from
that one and not that,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
I have to be there to support and represent.
Exactly.
That's how I view it. So
no, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. It's really cool. That's really, really cool. I think I can't agree more in that sense. I think that's what people don't understand, especially in this day of age of divisive opinions and everyone wanting to shout the loudest. It's like, what I think matters. I'm like, well, if you want me to care about what you think, you're gonna have to care about what I think. So it can't just be exclusive. It can't just be like, oh, I'm only bothered if there's black people in the building. It's like, well, and you want women. Oh, what's the point? I'm like, well, then let's not have any black people. Congratulations. Yeah, I mean, well, congratulations. Then it itself. So, but I think that's just it was something that I just wanted to understand, because the music industry is so interesting, because it's a situation where you can have a female artist. Do you know what I mean? And that's the person who's front and center. That's the person selling records. That's the person reaching millions and millions of people. It takes someone like insanely massive, like Beyonce, for instance, and how much of a community she has behind her. Do you know what I mean? And then for me to then think that actually, is it a situation where the people who are making decisions behind this don't actually understand what she's trying to do, or or the people she's trying to reach? And I think because we've had other people in other episodes when we talk about representation, and there's that aspect of just understanding, like almost without talking about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What that person might be feeling on or going through, or their experiences, or what they're looking for, and that happens in that situation with gender and the rest of it. So, and just because obviously for men it's like, yes, it's been a certain way for ages, it doesn't actually mean that that's the way everyone wants it. It's just been that way. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's why it was interesting for me to see that perspective. And it sounds like things are going in the right direction.
I think they are. Obviously, there's still work to do. Don't get me wrong.
Sorted.
Always, we're done. We
Today,
win.
guys, I like to announce.
It's over. It's done. But we're definitely going in the right
Stop the
direction.
podcast.
We've solved it.
We're good. Mission complete.
Literally.
That is hilarious.
In that, like, we actually slide into, I suppose the black conversation around. There's obviously there's obviously an ongoing conversation around artistry. The front end being black music, and the utilization of our culture for ourselves, but then at the higher levels where music is run, you guys can I guess give us an insight into how what's being done for better inclusion, diversity at those decision levels, and if it is important, what's being done, and how you feel pathways are being opened for people to get into those positions within, I suppose, Universal.
I can speak a little bit for Universal, but also wider. Having, as I said, worked a little bit at AWOL, which is part of Sony now. I think it for me, it's not exactly the same. So I'm presenting two sides of it. I like to play devil's advocate.
Right.
I think with gender, it is pretty much 50% women, 50% men in the wider population.
Right.
Pretty much. So for me, you do need to have that same kind of equal split at all levels. I don't think we're there yet, as you were saying, Amika. But I think, from my experience, the label I'm in, the two presidents are both women, which is amazing. And you see that across some of the labels at Universal as well. And I think that's really, really good to see. At the same time, it isn't 50% black, 50% white in the wider population.
Yeah. Which is
so whilst I would love to say that 50% of the execs and the presidents at Universal are black, that actually wouldn't be representation.
Yeah.
Whilst I would love it personally, it wouldn't be. I don't think we're there yet. We do have black presidents at Universal. So yeah, I think we are part of the way there. There are execs at pretty much every level who are black. And I think that, again, that's really, really good to see. And I think you made a point, Amika, about women having a team, having a great time, smashing it. And I think it just reminded me that we have so many talented people from every walk of life. And actually, yes, people do need to be given opportunities to go in and show what they're made of. And if it is always the same people at the top making the same decisions and hiring people that look like them, then you might not get that. So yeah, I think it is really, really important that we give opportunities to those who haven't been represented. And then hopefully we get a better mix that represents the society outside of the company, that being also reflected inside the company. So that would be my dream, my goal. But I think we're on the way there. I wouldn't say it's perfect. But yeah, I think we're on our way.
Yeah, agreed. I think that if you look at like what's popping right now, like Afrobeats is like
Oh my
the biggest genre in the world. And like, so even what you said about decision making when it comes to this, like who makes the decisions on what we focus on? And now what I'm seeing across my years is that now way more focus is being put on Black artists and rappers and Afrobeat artists, and it's like now it's like this, it was this small bubbling genre, not small, but you know what I mean, not where it's at now, but now people are paying attention when it is a sick Afrobeat artist that wants to be signed, or you know, so I think it's just about where the conversations and the focus have now changed, which I'm seeing are changing from when I started out to now. There's actually more eyes on who's the next big Afrobeat star, which I don't think that people would have really cared much about, like say even just a few years ago. So I think in that sense, the conversation is changing, which is good.
Amazing.
I think it's really interesting because to a point that both of you made, but I think Akara, you said you talked about representation in terms of the population itself. You know, because I think the UK is about 3% Black. And that. I think in terms of people of colour, it's probably closer to 20 or 15% in total. But here's the interesting thing, I guess, is I want to know, in essence, who's the most important. Let me finish.
Me!
End the podcast there again.
I am. Everyone could go home.
You're done. You're on a yellow card. You're done. You're on a yellow card. I can't deal with it at the moment. But yeah, I'm in terms of when I say who's the most important, it struck me that yes, you talk about representation within the population. That's one thing. Then you talk about who's making these records. And that representation, the pool of people, but that's what's hot right now, which is what you're saying, right? So, so if tomorrow classical music becomes the hot thing, do you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean if there's more, let's say, white people involved in that. It's like, does that change representation within the company itself? Do you know what I mean? So it's like there's the reality of the general population, who's making the music, and the third reality for me is who buys the stuff, right? So then I kind of go, who's the most important?
Oh, I see.
So I said because then someone can make an argument, and this is just me. I'm playing devil's advocate. I've actually wasted one of my best questions, but I'm going to do it now. Because in my head I thought about it, I was like, but it's too good to let go. I was like, who's most important? Because let's just say you have a killer artist now killing the game in this country, right? If the people buying the record are effectively from a European background, you know what I mean? Can someone then argue that, well, I know my people the best. I know what they're going to want to buy, so I should be the one leading this charge. Or is it I'm from this same background as the artist, so I know what will get the artist to produce the best music? Or is it just simply about, well, we should just have a representation that sort of fits with what the population looks like? Does that make sense? So I guess that's what I'm asking you two is that what's the most important?
Trick question, isn't it?
It's a very you're a sneaky one.
Yeah,
You're a sneaky one.
He's
I
trying to
was
trip us
warming
up.
up. I have a notepad for a reason, guys. If you want to see us on here, you're gonna like it.
I know.
But honestly, yeah, it's and look, I obviously I respect that you guys have your careers and the rest of it. I'm not asking you to put yourself in jeopardy. But it's just an interesting question. It's like it's when I say who's most important, it's more of a what do you think people look at as opposed to, and you can answer yourself. You can say, I think probably this is the biggest driving force in it all. But it just kind of occurred to me that that's a real thing. Do you know what I mean? It's an argument people can make. So I've got to look at those arguments.
And just because I know you and I know you like to argue and we share a birthday, I'm going to come straight back at you.
Love it.
Which is, I know research has been done that shows that diverse companies have the best results.
Interesting.
Oh,
So actually, I feel like that is a great way just
Fantastic.
to back that back. And
No,
just
that's
be like, look,
fantastic.
whatever way you're looking at it, you need diversity because it is having those voices and that dissent that you can come to the best conclusion. If it is homogenous, you're going to have blind spots. And I think that's how I would like to answer that. But yeah.
Amika?
Yeah, no, but what you...
Don't drop the mic like this.
We got a lot of mics, don't drop any of them. They're very expensive.
We've only got 3 mics now, guys.
Oh dear. No, I'm going to back what you said and also back what you said. I don't think one is more important than the other. I think they both are needed. Someone will know what you work in audiences. Someone there will know what audience is going to buy, who the audience is that's going to buy. So that's what their job is. But then there's also going to be someone that helps make this amazing music and set the wave and know culturally what aligns with everyone else, I guess. But so I think you can't really say like, oh, which one's most important, because you need someone who's actually making the amazing music. But if it's vibey, black, white, mixed race, whoever is going to jump on it. I would actually really argue that the person who's making the music, and I guess someone who is helping execute it and they're obviously, people of color, that's where the vibes really begin. And then if that vibe is really vibing, the rest of the world will just jump on board.
Perfect.
like that.
No, great answers, guys. Great,
like that.
great answers. That's literally perfect. That's funny enough. Yeah, actually, the next segment of the show is actually something called "Prove Me Wrong."
Oh,
Okay.
But honestly, just before I go into that, I think those are both perfect answers. And I think for me, it's educative for me. You know what I mean? Because it's something that I just think about, and I think so. Actually, I like to ask those kind of questions because I don't just run to, in a day and age where inclusivity is important and we want it and we want representation, but I don't just jump to it as a kind of, it doesn't matter, just literally, exactly, because it becomes tokenistic, and I think one of our things at Black in London is that we don't like the idea of tokenistic gestures, do you know what I mean? Because we need it to have meaning. Otherwise, it's a pointless thing, because that means you could put someone like you two guys, as far as I can say, are amazing at what you do. Do you know what I mean? So, but then you're amazing at what you do, and you're people of color, not you're a person of color, so we put you in a job. Does that make sense? And I think that's what I don't want. So, and because it takes away from the work that you guys are actually doing. Does that make sense? So that's why I always say tokenistic gestures are more harmful, I think, than helpful. Because there's always been trailblazers in every industry, and they're proof that it can be done. So rather than, if you like, I feel like insult them with tokenistic gestures, it's like it just proves that we don't need to. If you hold some, let's say, old school ideals, do you know what I mean? You can let go of them because it's proof, living proof that it doesn't have to be that way. Do you know what I mean? And that's great. So yeah, so the second part of this, this podcast is something called Prove Me Wrong. This section's called Prove Me Wrong, where myself and Alex will be playing devil's advocate, asking our hosts questions close to their heart, giving them the opportunity to navigate the tricky waters of today's whataboutism and the ignorance posted in most comment sections. I'm going to basically ask you guys each a question. And listen. But the thing is, to us, first off, I have to be clear, these are not my views. Do you know what I mean? Because I had to say this because everyone literally looks at me and I start asking questions. Everyone's like, oh? I'm like, what? I'm like, no, it's not my view. I'm playing devil's advocate. Okay?
Is this a quick fire round?
No. That comes after. That comes after.
So do you know the show?
Yeah, I'm like, don't ruin it for me.
I'm reading your notes over there.
I'm going to call it something else.
Slow fire.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. No one predicts me. Nobody. But yeah, so and the funny thing is, to be honest, you guys have actually it's really hard to come up with questions because you answered loads of questions, and I'm thinking, okay, that doesn't make any sense anymore. And but I think if I'm gonna ask a question to you both, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go with I mean, I'm gonna ask
tension.
I've got them.
Some tension.
It is. So, to counter, let me go what you said about how a lot of artists bring like the ones that bring family into their situations, and how you see how it helps ground them and the rest of it. I guess my concern with that, or my thought process, is that most of the time, there's people say there's sayings which talk about don't involve family in business, and I think isn't it people better qualified? Do you know what I mean? If I was a musician, I can employ my sister, or if I wanted to employ yourself, I think to myself, why would you do yourself a disservice and think that a family member could do a job better than you?
I mean, I guess because everyone talks about industry and like some people have quite reserving views about how the industry can mess you over and all the rest of it. So I just say, just from what I've seen personally, obviously it doesn't mean that every family member is going to do like a great job. Sometimes they might not. But what I do know is that having someone that you trust and can communicate what you really want, because if you're kind of just like taking in the tide of like these big label execs or, you know, these offers or deals or whatever, you might feel a bit pressured to kind of go along with it. But I'm just saying it's just nice to have your people around you that you can actually have honest conversations and discuss things and process things in a safe space and environment before just speaking to someone out of your circle. Do you know what I mean?
No, that makes perfect sense.
So
No, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. You can chip in if you want.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, people who ground.
You can both answer these questions.
Okay.
Just start with one question.
Yeah, people who ground you, I think, is really, really important. And as you were saying, actually, Martin, about that people won't just get a job because of who they are. There has to be a level of competence. So yeah, it has to be someone managing you who can actually manage, who can communicate well, you know, who can make a rational decision. You know, as you said, you don't just pull a family member in who is waste.
yeah.
For want of a better word.
And I guess sometimes also if your manager is your friend, that can also be a touchy, techie, you know, because it's your mate, they might just be enjoying the ride along with you. Do you know what I mean?
Surfboard.
Do you know what I mean? Just riding that wave, which fair enough, you enjoy, live your life. But if you're the manager, you also need to like know that you're not just there to enjoy what comes. You need to build and make what comes. In a sense, if you are bringing people that you know and love and your friendships, and just make sure that they're actually on point. Like, because your manager is like, the difference that you are as an artist with a good manager and a bad manager is big. Like, it's wild. So I think definitely if you are employing friends, just make sure that they're not just there for a good time.
Perfect. Thank you.
But still enjoy. I mean, yes, life is fun.
Small.
Enjoy the free drinks, you know? have fun, definitely.
I love that. All right, perfect. Thank you, guys. That's perfect. And to Akara, I think what I'm going to ask you, my good man, is we talked a bit about here on the show, I think, and as well in the past, about, you know, sort of the business side of things. Surely the money's the most important part. Without it, we don't get the platforms, we don't get the aspects. And you talked about art, and, you know, talked about you making music, but in essence, it was sort of a waste of time because nothing came out of it. So surely the
Wow.
surely the
My twist.
I'm just saying.
Wait a minute.
These are your words. So
Oh, wow.
so surely it's about business first, and the money is the most important part.
Objection.
Of this music making aspect.
I think it's something I said a couple of times. I think you have to define your targets. And I think there are some people who come into music just to make money. I'm not going to begrudge them that, because you can make money in music.
And you need to make money. Life is expensive.
Life is, London life especially is expensive.
London life for real.
But on the flip side, there are artists who, I think it's FKJ, who lives in the Philippines. And I don't know why he moved to the Philippines, but part of me thinks there must be something about the cost of living there. And so he probably...
Inspiration aspect.
Right. And the environment, his studio looks amazing, like warm weather every day. He's there with his family. You know, so he probably could take a less lucrative deal potentially because his costs are not as high. He's got his studio in his house. He lives in a great environment. So money can be important, but I think you just have to know whether it's important to you. I think if you work with certain people, recognize what their motivations are. So if they are all about the money, understand they are all about the money. And if you're not about that same thing, maybe you can't work together. Some people are all about the music. And they will do the music regardless of whether they're getting paid or not. And if you're that type of person, amazing person to hang with. You know, you can there be in synergy, all about the music, getting the chords right, making the most amazing transitions and intros and whatever it is, and that's your life. I think it gets techie when you start trying to mix it. That can really end badly if you're all about the music and you're working with someone who just wants to get the money, or vice versa. I think that's where it can really get there can be a lot of friction.
Do you think as well, I guess, just a quick other aspect to it, do you guys think that the industry could survive if it was purely money driven without the art form?
No. Never.
Just making sure.
Mic drop. Another mic. Poof.
Just making sure, but this is it. I mean, because some people would have loved to argue the idea that, you know, with algorithms and everything in place now, we can just conjure up an AI coming. The way it comes, we can just conjure up stuff. Listen, it could come up. They can make the argument that this is what we need. We just need people to head nod. 10-second clips is all people need. The art form is not necessary. So that's why I asked you guys if you feel that way.
I think that's an interesting segue and point. I think there is a space for AI and technology and all of that stuff, but ultimately it's who's consuming it. If humans are consuming it, in my opinion, and maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm the person that's going to get phased out. But in my opinion,
Never.
please no. In my opinion, it's the humanness in music. that appeals to
Totally.
me.
Yeah, I was gonna say this.
You know, and I walk around the office and I speak to people, and as much as people might say, oh, that's not true, that's not how major labels are, like I know so many of my friends who work in the same building who absolutely adore music, who love music, who go to shows the whole time, who listen to so much music. I mean, when the Spotify Wrapped comes out, there's one dude who must have listened to approximately eight hours of music every single day.
Jeez.
And it's like, there is a passion there.
I'm about to get fired.
Yeah, like, why is the music not working? I work in music.
I'm joking, I'm already playing.
But yeah, there's a huge passion there, and I think we love music. And you know, we're at an event. I think it was a spring event recently, and artists got up on stage, and there was a visceral reaction to those artists who could emote on stage, and people were touched, and it was okay, cool. That's why we do this. And yeah, of course, we have spreadsheets and we have targets and all the rest of it, which can be a little bit dry, but they are there because we need to keep the lights on. But without the music, none of it exists. And the music has to be amazing. I think you made that point earlier. It has to be amazing music. As an indie artist, as someone at a major label, the music has to be amazing. It has to be the top of the top. If you're thinking about trying to get signed and your music is not the best in your scene, you're doing the wrong thing. You should probably just pack it in. If you just want to make money and go work in a bank, do you know what I mean? Like, make sure the music is absolutely banging, and then we got something to work with.
And you know what? People are like buying into the artist. Like people are buying into someone's story. I mean, I don't know about this AI thing. I'm trying to understand it, but it's scary. But all I know is that AI can create an album or whatever, but that's not what people are paying their money to. People are paying their money to go to gigs to see an artist in the flesh. Like people are buying and you know, and like what always goes around the word that always goes around my label is like the artist's story. Like what is the story? Because people will buy into their story and what their story is. If you have no story, then people don't really care about you. It's like people are interested, like, you know, Fredo's quite like, you know, mysterious and he's a bit like, you know, people buy into like, oh, what's he about? If you don't have anything that you're not curious about, then you won't really care. It won't, you won't care. So, and every artist has the story and something that you can relate to or you're interested in or what they're about, their personalities or their interests. So yes, AI robot people can take over the world, but I don't think that it's going to really help with, you know, the actual, like, if you are trying to make money for it. Like, although I did go to the ABBA gig the other day, which is the robot one. Oh my God, it was crazy.
Was it good?
It was so good. So those are the only robots I like, those ABBA ones.
That's nice because it means that like your artist can almost live forever.
Yes.
It's a cool idea. It's as long as it's not new artists.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. But yeah, I think that's amazing. If I could still see if artists who sadly passed away for whatever reason, and you can bring them back to life, and it looks almost as if they're really there. That's an amazing feeling.
It was crazy. If I didn't know, like I was just like plopped there in a gig, and I didn't know that this was a robot gig, I'd think they were there. Like you can see the sweat beads like dripping. You can see their hair follicles. You can see like it was the most realistic show I've ever seen in my life. So yes, you're enjoying the ABBA hits, but you're also just looking at like, what am I watching? It is wild ride.
That's amazing. Terrifying.
Yeah. It was amazing and terrifying.
Yeah. All right, perfect. And last but not least is the quick fire round.
Yay!
This is the quick fire round. No ifs, buts, or maybes. No long explanations. Just one answer. I kept the name. I couldn't think of anything else. But, listen, you're going to try and ask me what I mean. I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to ask. You're just going to have to ask these questions.
Okay.
They're simple. They're fun. So we'll kick it off. Beach or city?
Beach.
Beach.
That's where you spend 9 to 5 or 10 to 6.
10 to 6.
10 to 6,
I
Stefan.
love everyone's faces. You know, I was like, I can feel your day happening. Yeah,
That's what time I start. Yeah.
Bank or alternative finance?
Bank.
Oh, interesting. I don't even know what alternative finance. Let's say alternative finance. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. That's why I went for bank.
Why not?
Let's try it.
Why not?
Let's try it.
Jollof rice or rice and peas?
Jollof rice.
Rice and peas.
There it is.
But you are an African man and I'm a Caribbean
That's
woman.
it.
So,
We've had one betrayal actually.
oh,
Yeah, we have.
Very
Yeah,
happy about that.
interesting.
For jollof, right?
Yeah, she came
Yeah,
up. She came up. We were very happy about it. Nuclear power or fossil fuels?
Fossil fuels.
Oh, a nuclear.
Quality or quantity?
Quality.
Youth or experience?
Experience.
Interesting. I love this question.
Here we go.
Oh my goodness.
On the fence.
I've actually, for this one and the previous, I'm actually both. But,
I know you got
but
it.
there is no both.
No,
So
no.
Gun to the head.
I'm going to say experience because I'm
Okay.
experienced.
There you go. Academia or apprenticeship?
Academia, don't want to betray my people.
Okay.
I'm done out here. Honestly.
Let's go for apprenticeship because there's lots of different ways to get into what you want to do.
That's fair enough. Private or public?
Public.
Just,
Ooh.
This is again betraying my privilege. Private.
Sustainability or low cost?
Sustainability.
all day.
YouTube or Netflix?
Netflix.
Yeah, good thing. Good answers. Brick and mortar or online?
Brick and mortar.
Oh.
Oh, brick and mortar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last one, city or countryside?
Countryside.
There you go. Sounds so
Okay.
interesting. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Amazing. Amazing. So that's that concludes another episode of the BOLO Business Podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for coming and sharing so many interesting insights. I know there's going to be so many people getting new views of what the music industry is about, what it entails, what the back end is all about, and just really refreshing to get an opportunity to see some black faces talking about it as well. So
Yay, that was so fun. And also, just to say, your voice is like butter. It's so smooth.
Don't
It's-
do this to him.
It's
Don't
actually
do this to him.
ridiculous.
I have to-
Like,
I still have to do
why
episodes
is
with
your
him,
voice like that?
I have to do episodes with him, please. I have to do episodes with him, please.
It's
That-
like, I thought,
Now it's not going to stop.
I
Now
wa-
it's not going
Well,
to
it's
stop.
like, what about my voice?
I want my voice to sound like glass.
Okay.
That's like,
Sandpaper.
yeah, that's it. It's like, I'm going to do this. Next thing you know, the last episode's going to be like, so.
literally, you need to be on like Smooth FM or just read people's stories at night. I don't know. Sounds good. Sounds good.
No, that's nice. That's kind. That's
Anyway,
very kind. That's very kind of you.
something I've been working on the way.
Problems. All problems. All problems.
Thank you so much. I really
Thanks for having
appreciate
us.
that. I
Honestly,
appreciate
guys, thank you so much for coming down.
your time.
Honestly,
and-
amazing insights.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing points of view. Brilliant, to be honest. It's a cool one. I know a lot of people, especially any musos and music heads, are going to love this. Like, I really love this, so thank you.
100%.
No worries.
Thanks a lot.
Yay!
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the BOLO Business Podcast. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. We encourage you to carry these conversations forward, share your thoughts with us on social media, and most importantly, apply the insights gained today in your own spheres of influence. Stay tuned for more compelling discussions that transcend boundaries, bridge cultures, and celebrate the richness of diversity. Please subscribe, share, and until next time, this is the BOLO Business Podcast. Signing